the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the County Government Act 2012, the Public Finance Management Act 2012, and the Public Procurement and Disposal Act 2005. Number 2, crimes under national law. And number 3, abuse of office / gross misconduct. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order. Order number 4, motion.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the following motion, that whereas pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution and Section 33 of the County Government Act 2013, on 9th December 2019, the County Assembly of Kiambu approved a motion to remove from office by impeachment the Honorable Ferdinand Ndung'u Waititu Babayao, the Governor of Kiambu County. And further, whereas by letter dated 20 December 2019, reference number CAK 11910/24, received in the office of the Speaker of the Senate on 23rd December 2019, the Speaker of the County Assembly of Kiambu informed the Speaker of the Senate of the approval of the motion by the County Assembly and further forwarded to the Speaker of the Senate documents in evidence of the proceedings of the Assembly. And whereas pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution, Section 33 of the County Government Act 2012, and Standing Order 75, the Senate heard the County Assembly on the grounds of removal from office by impeachment by the Governor. And further, whereas pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution, Section 33 of the County Government Act 2012, and Standing Order 75 of the Senate, also heard the Governor of Kiambu County on the grounds of removal from office by impeachment of the Governor. Now, therefore, pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution, Section 33 of the County Government Act 2012, and Standing Order 75, the Senate resolves to remove from office by impeachment the Honorable Ferdinand Ndung'u Waititu Babayao, the Governor of Kiambu County, on the following charges, namely, gross violation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the County Government Act 2012, the Public Finance Management Act 2012, and the Public Procurement and Disposal Act 2005. Number 2, crimes under the national law. And 3, abuse of office / gross misconduct. Mr. Speaker, this is an issue that has been canvassed for the last 2 days. We've listened to the County Assembly make their case. We've listened to the County Executive defend the Governor, both the lawyers and the Governor himself, in his personal statements to defend himself, both in his opening and closing statement. Mr. Speaker, this House is being invited to impeach a Governor who was elected in the most populous county of Kiambu, the second most populous county in the Republic of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, this impeachment is, Mr. Speaker, predicated on allegations that range from the accusation of, Mr. Speaker, misappropriation of public funds to, Mr. Speaker, allegations that relate to his personal conduct when dealing with private citizens, to also issues related to abuse of office. Something weighty that this House, Mr. Speaker, cannot ignore was raised by the councils of Governor Waititu in relation to does this House have jurisdiction to deal with this matter? Mr. Speaker, the process that came from the County Assembly, the question of, Mr. Speaker, a threshold, whether, Mr. Speaker, 2/3 of the County Assembly members voted to impeach the Governor, Mr. Speaker, has been canvassed. In fact, in a cross-examination, it came out clearly from the County Assembly member who moved the motion that there was no quorum in the House to impeach the Governor. Mr. Speaker, on that ground alone, Mr. Speaker, I will make my determination on whether or not the Governor should be impeached. Mr. Speaker, this is a House that many of us sit, and particularly those who swore to protect the Constitution. All of us swore to protect the Constitution. We also swore, Mr. Speaker, to become faithful to the Constitution in the protection of counties and county governments. Granted, our duty is to protect the country from corruption, from, Mr. Speaker, matters of...
Yes, what's the point of order, Senator Orengo?
Mr. Speaker, this is the point I've been trying to press.
Take your seat, Senator.
Yeah, and that's why I said probably the best procedure is to read the charges and we vote on it. But you cannot have a situation where somebody is moving the motion without urging the motion. Yeah, if you had that conflict, then you should have surrendered to somebody to move the motion. Because, you know, you are calling the House. You are urging the House. Yeah, now, if you're going contrary to the motion, then I think, you know, this is a house of decorum, a house of integrity, and I think, whereas I agree with everything that you're saying, I think it'd be wrong to move the motion, at the same time to be seen to be opposing the motion. Yeah, I think it is not right.
Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., just before you respond. Oh.
Mr. Speaker, the decision that we are going to make is based on the motion, and therefore the mover of the motion cannot move and unmove it. Otherwise, our decision, we will be contradicting ourselves. So maybe the mover should move and reserve his comments at a later part of the debate, and since the standing orders say you cannot speak twice on a motion, then the majority leader can split this into some installments so that he moves the motion and then contradicts the motion at some point. But he cannot just do that because you're putting us in and haven't finished.
Senator Haneri?
You're already here.
Take your seat, Leader of Majority.
That's what... to relax a little bit, yeah.
Indeed, Mr. Speaker, I think I had pressed before Senator Mutula Kilonzo took the floor. And I just want to emphasize the point that has been raised by the leader of minority and supported by the minority whip. Mr. Speaker, in my entire life in this parliament, in the other chamber, 4 terms, in this chamber, 2 terms, I have never seen anything like this. I have never seen anything like this. Mr. Speaker, the leader of majority has a choice. If he does not believe in the motion, then let him cede ground so that somebody else moves the motion, then he will come in and make his contribution. You cannot be given an opportunity to move a motion and you're contradicting the same motion at the same time. Mr. Speaker, I want to urge you to find him out of order. He either moves the motion as it is and supports, or he cedes ground so that somebody else can move this motion. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Cheriot.
Mr. Speaker, I listened keenly when the majority leader was making his remarks. I was keen and I wanted to know how he would approach the kind of reservations that are being raised. But up to the point that he was interrupted by leader of minority, all he has said is that in making his decision, he will be guided by determination on whether county assembly had the quorum or they didn't. He hadn't reached a point of saying how he will make that decision.
No.
I don't understand.
Order.
Unless...
Order.
No, the Hansard bears me...
Okay.
You see, Mr. Speaker...
Okay, proceed, Senator.
Mr. Speaker...
Proceed.
The Hansard always bears truth. If there is anybody that doubts that those are the words that he used, can they produce a Hansard that says, up to this point, I'm not sure how he'll proceed after these interventions, but up to the point that he was interrupted, he hadn't declared. And like we've seen in so many bills, even when you're moving a bill, you speak on the strengths and perhaps also 1 or 2 reservations that you have about a particular law that you're moving.
Okay, order, senators. I think we did even agree with the leader of majority as he went to move the motion that he was going to move it, and maybe at a later date, because he had now started delving into issues that will be discussed. And we did agree that he will move it. It has to be seconded. Then I'll propose the question and open the floor for discussion. So please, that's the guidance, and that's the direction that I'm giving Leader of Majority.
Mr. Speaker, in my entire stay in this House for 2 terms, it may not be as many years as George, I have never seen anybody question any move of a motion, Mr. Speaker, on raising issues that will determine the decision that will be made on that motion. Never. Number 2, it's standard. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, I move so many motions in this House that come from the National Assembly by virtue of my office. And some of those motions we don't agree as a House. And during that motion, Mr. Speaker, I make it clear that the House will make a determination at the end. So, Mr. Speaker, please, let's not stifle debate because we have a straitjacket.
Leader of Majority, we are not doing
Let me move the motion.
Or move the motion.
Correct, thank you.
But stick to the rules. And
Mr. Speaker,
okay.
Mr. Speaker, I don't want to lose my cool, but I want to say this. Everybody in this House, Mr. Speaker, will have the opportunity to vote where they will vote. But, Mr. Speaker, the thing that we cannot...
What's your point of order, Senator Omogeni?
So, how many point of order?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I have tremendous respect for my learned friend, Senator Murkomen. But, Mr. Speaker, we are guided by our standing orders. And I think one of the cardinal rules is that when you are a senator on the floor, you should not become emotional. And we should not use language that is unparliamentary. Is the senator in order to state that he's about to lose his cool? Is he in order?
Mr. Speaker, I don't know how people listen. I said I don't want to lose my cool.
Yeah, you said that.
Yes.
So
I didn't say that I'm about to lose my cool.
To assist us make progress,
thank you.
Leader of Majority, move the motion and leave the rest of the talking to a later time.
The first thing, Mr. Speaker, based on the submissions of the County Assembly, is that this House will have to make this decision tonight in voting on the 3 issues. On an account of, Mr. Speaker, did the County Assembly meet the constitutional threshold when they impeached the governor? If, Mr. Speaker, they never met that threshold, then, Mr. Speaker, by virtue of lacking the relevant jurisdiction as a House, Mr. Speaker, there would be no ability for us to investigate the veracity of the issues, Mr. Speaker, therein, whether there was a gross violation of the Constitution, whether there was a corruption. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, is for us to put weight on the evidence and the documents submitted by the County Assembly. This House, Mr. Speaker, is making a decision that has great implication on our procedures and standards and processes and tradition. And, Mr. Speaker, when this House is making this determination, we already have a litany of jurisprudence that comes from the many cases, Mr. Speaker, that we have handled as a House. Number 3, and the last, Mr. Speaker, I want to say is that the Senate is converting itself to a quasi-judicial institution. Mr. Speaker, whereas other decisions we make because of political consideration, it will be important that all the decisions we'll make today will be for posterity. For posterity because, Mr. Speaker, there are many judicial decisions related to impeachment. Some, Mr. Speaker, where I sat in the committee of Wambora, where the decision was about the question of whether there was procedures followed in the County Assembly. Others, Mr. Speaker, that came as a result, Mr. Speaker, of court orders that were obtained by the governors prior to coming here, which the courts have argued that we should not have ignored when determining the decision we made. Mr. Speaker, the stakes are high. This is a county governor. This is about devolution. This is about, Mr. Speaker, the future of counties and devolution. I am happy to note that, Mr. Speaker, this House, in the 7 decisions they have made, Mr. Speaker, some have gone towards impeachment, some, Mr. Speaker, have not gone towards impeachment. What I like, what the Council of the County Assembly said, the Senate is not on trial. It is not on trial. And in most cases, people have used, the Senate is on trial to intimidate members to make decision one way or the other. I want to urge honorable senators that as we retreat to make the decision and determination on the matter that is before us, we all search our conscience, Mr. Speaker, look at the evidence, look at the persuasive arguments, Mr. Speaker, on both sides, and cast our vote, not just for now, but for posterity, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this House in the past has risen to the occasion. And Mr. Speaker, I thought this was just a mere cliche, but I saw my predecessor, Senator Kindiki, use the same when he was moving this similar motion, Mr. Speaker, in relation to the impeachment of the governor of Nyeri. And he said, Mr. Speaker, it's up to us. It's up to us. If it fits, if it doesn't fit, you are quit, Mr. Speaker. This was a famous quote that was made by the courts in the case, the famous case of O.J. Simpson. That, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, it's up to us to make a decision. If it fits, Mr. Speaker, to the description, if the evidence leads to the conclusion, Mr. Speaker, that the charges can be confirmed, we confirm. If, Mr. Speaker, the charges and the evidence, Mr. Speaker, leads to a conclusion that, Mr. Speaker, we must acquit, we will acquit. And we will not have any, Mr. Speaker, apology to make to anybody, because we are doing this solemn duty in ultimate protection of the Constitution and ultimate protection of, Mr. Speaker, our duty as the Senate. We thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to call the Senate Minority Leader to respond, to reply. To second, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I equally agree that the task that you have been given, and is a constitutional task and a statutory task, both in terms of the Constitution of Kenya and the County Governments Act. And therefore, I am fully in agreement, because the decision we are going to make is going to either affirm the elections that were held in the year 2017 for the position of governorship of Kiambu County government, or not to upset that decision that was made by the people of Kiambu. So it is a weighty decision, because the consequence of the decision that we're going to make is going to overturn the vote that the people of Kiambu made in 2017. But having said that, I want to remind the House that the County Assembly is a constitutional organ, is a constitutional body. It is not a statutory body, it is a constitutional body, just like the Senate. And I want to add, if you look at the County Government Act in relation to the composition of the county government, it says the county, that is Article 176, that there shall be a county government of each county consisting of the county assembly and the county executive. In the hierarchy of our constitutional architecture, it is the body that represents the people that is higher. Just like in the order of the Constitution, you find that, the Parliament becomes, in the order of hierarchy in the Constitution, Parliament comes before the executive, it comes before the judiciary. So when a constitutional body approaches another constitutional body, there is a legal principle that, the principle of comity, of harmonious relationship between one constitutional body and the other constitutional body. Now, Mr. Speaker, I want, in relation to specifically to the matters which have been brought to us, when Raila Odinga went to court in 2013, and in effect, he was questioning the conduct of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, how they conducted that election. The Supreme Court had this to say, and I want the leader of the majority to listen to this very carefully. In paragraph 196, you have read it, but you have not cited it in any court. Me, I have cited this section many times. It says, this emerges from a long-standing common law approach in respect of alleged irregularity in the acts of public bodies. We are saying there was an irregularity in the county assembly. Now, the Supreme Court said for the legal principle to be applied is the following. Omnia praemuntur rit et solemniter es acta, which means all acts are presumed to have been done rightly and regularly. That's the principle of legality. So that when Senate makes a decision, before the contrary is proved, it is assumed that you have done the thing correctly. So that when the Senate enacts a law, there's a presumption of legality. So that when the county government, the county assembly of Kiambu makes a decision, there's a presumption of legality. How do you interrogate that legality? And this case, again, the Supreme Court, which some people are very happy about because their candidate won. This is what they have to say. This is on the burden of proof. And they said the burden of proof shifts throughout a trial. That once somebody has made an allegation, then it is the other side now to provide a rebuttal. You are required to make a rebuttal. The county assembly brought a series of allegations which should have been rebutted. Now, I am amazed. In fact, one of the things that I found very unfortunate, and I really wanted to be of assistance, is that in the, however much you discount the evidence that has been brought by county assembly, there was no rebuttal. There was no rebuttal at all. You cannot invent that evidence. You cannot invent it. It cannot exist in your mind. That would not be useful. There's a process under which the standing orders says we should conduct the proceedings as when one side has presented evidence, the other side should now present evidence to rebut. And what happened in rebuttal? There was just a single document which was a notice of preliminary objection. Now, when you have been charged with such a serious offense, the first thing that you do when you read the charges, you collect the evidence to rebut the evidence that has been made available before you. And that's why under our rules, we are required to give the other side that evidence that has been presented to the Senate, is given the entire evidence so that that evidence can now be rebutted, either during the hearing or in the documents that have been filed. Now, Mr. Speaker, I found this case to be very unfortunate because under the standing orders and under the Constitution, each of the parties could have called evidence. Yeah, for example, if there was a procurement officer that was not called, somebody should have made an application to call that particular witness. And that was not done. I think it is, let me quote it. The Senate may, at the request of the county assembly or the governor, invite or summon any person to appear and give evidence before the Senate. That is standing order number 9, rule number 9. And it is there in the Constitution. So, this is a very unfortunate case. Let me tell you, it's very unfortunate. Even me sitting there, I said, Governor Waititu has been done a little bit of dishonor. Because I think, in a way, he could have presented a case that would have met the threshold that is required. Just imagine, he had affidavits. It was like Raila Odinga. He was being told, you know, you have 960 pages, but they are not before the court. 960. And at that time, the majority leader was very happy with the ruling of the Supreme Court. Now today, he's got to sing another song. I know some people can be very happy being in Mombasa and being in Naivasha. You know, BBI, we support BBI in Mombasa, and in Naivasha you go, no, here you got to take a stand. You got to take a stand. And for posterity, and in accordance with the rules. So what I'm saying, Mr. Speaker, in support of this motion, that the Senate does not have a case to present, the Senate does not have a case to rebut. Us is to hear the evidence that has been brought before us. And I think the standing orders, I agree with Senator Wako and Senator Omugeni, we need to look at our standing orders. But if it was a presidential impeachment, the prosecution would have been the members of parliament who come before the Senate with the impeachment, the articles of impeachment, and prosecute the case. In this particular instance, the prosecution was being done by the county assembly and its lawyers. And we are sitting here listening to their case, and the other side also presented their case. So in terms of what has been brought before us, Mr. Speaker, I would just invite the Senate that we look at the individual charges. We look at the individual charges and find whether that threshold has been met. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support the motion, second the motion. And I will not blow hot and cold. I'll second the motion.
Honorable Senators, I now propose the question, which is that whereas pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution and Section 33 of the County Government Act 2012, on 19th December 2019, the County Assembly of Kiambu approved a motion to remove from office by impeachment the Honorable Ferdinand Ndung'u Waititu Babayao, the Governor of Kiambu County. And further, whereas by letter dated 20th December 2019, reference CAK/1/19/1024, received in the office of the Speaker of the Senate on 23rd December 2019, the Speaker of the County Assembly of Kiambu informed the Speaker of the Senate of the approval of the motion by the County Assembly, and further forwarded to the Speaker of the Senate documents in evidence of the proceedings of the Assembly. And whereas pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution, Section 33 of the County Government Act 2012 and Standing Order Number 75, the Senate had the County Assembly on the grounds of removal from office by impeachment of the Governor. And further, whereas pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution, Section 33 of the County Government Act 2012 and Standing Order Number 75, the Senate also had the Governor of Kiambu County on the grounds of removal from office by impeachment of the Governor. Now, therefore, pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution, Section 33 of the County Government Act 2012 and Standing Order Number 75, the Senate resolves to remove from office by impeachment the Honorable Ferdinand Ndung'u Waititu Babayao, the Governor of Kiambu County, on the following charges, namely 1, gross violation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the County Government Act 2012, the Public Finance Management Act 2012, and the Public Procurement and Disposal Act 2005. 2, crimes under the national law, and 3, abuse of office, gross misconduct. Senator, now I'll give a few, maybe 3 minutes, because there's a lot of interest for people to contribute to the motion. Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. Order. Unfortunately, he has a position he holds a position in the Senate, so I'll get to you. He has been here longer than you, Senator Malala. That is the President's. Proceed.
Thank you, Speaker. This, as just like Senator Orengo said, it's extremely unfortunate that a matter this serious appears to have been taken very casually by the people representing the governor. Extremely casually. And that it is so casual that whilst all of us have been seated here the whole day, we collected our documents on Monday, The lawyers of the governor did not find it fit to even file a formal application before you to explain why they could not comply with the statutory timelines. Mr. Speaker, even in a court of law, nobody would have allowed such an oral application. It's again very casual. Let me point another casual issue. Number 2, the Commissioner of Administrative Justice is a court under Section 27 of that Act. The Commission of Administrative Justice issues a ruling that is adverse to the governor. The governor ignores it, again, very casually, and tells us, since he has not been prosecuted, we should ignore. How are we supposed to ignore such issues? Mr. Speaker, that finding of Florence Kajuju is unchallenged. It's here, it's unchallenged. The law does not aid the indolent. It only aids the vigilant. Mr. Speaker, proof of public participation should have come here. The lawyers of the governor were seated in chamber on 19th of December. What is the date they submitted? 25th of January. Mr. Speaker, we are not here to assist them. We are here to follow the law. They didn't follow the law, and therefore they must await their fate. Question of quorum. I've looked at the standing orders, Mr. Speaker. The standing orders of Kiambu County have got a provision about how quorum is determined. Mr. Speaker, before we make a vote here, quorum is determined in advance, not at the end. So that question cannot even come here. In our rulings, both in the case of Wambora, in the case of Wambora in the Court of Appeal, they said we have no liberty to go behind the county assembly to interrogate. Mr. Speaker, under our standing orders, this letter that submitted this motion that gave jurisdiction to this Senate is a letter of a speaker. What they are saying is you impugn this letter. How do we do that without violating our own standing orders, Mr. Speaker? The question of time, the majority leader here is the one who summoned us. You have already made a finding. Mr. Speaker, that matter must rest. But there is one issue. For the first time since Chepkwony, there is a direct nexus between an allegation and the person. For the first time that we have done impeachments. And therefore, Waititu must await his fate. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Cheriot Haron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'll try and be, one, brief, but also logical and not legal. Because there is an attempt in this House to reduce every engagement to become a legal process so that you lock out the majority of the members who are not lawyers, and therefore reduce this to be a battleground of the legal brains only. And I see I have many supporters in that regard. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, when Speaker Eturo made a ruling allowing Governor Gachagua to bring additional evidence before this House, he asked a very simple question. Why are we here, senators? We are here to try and establish the truth. And it was in that decision that I want to form the basis of my argument. Let us be guided by logic and not just the law. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, we are being told that there is no evidence that was placed before us. But I ask a very simple but logical question, Mr. Speaker. Why do we bring witnesses before the Senate? Why do we even keep them under an oath? The gentleman who spoke on behalf of the county assembly was asked by the lawyer for the governor, are you sure that the numbers that were in that house, because you, the mover of the motion, met the prerequisite for a governor to be impeached? The Hansard bears me witness. He said he is sure of the numbers. What were the numbers? 56. If we are being told that we cannot make a decision because evidence is not before us, then I dare ask, why were we bringing witnesses before us? I thought witnesses come to help us understand the case better. On a second issue, Mr. Speaker, because it is politically convenient to make the kind of arguments that the flowery ones that you're being given this afternoon, oh, You know, let us be firm and consistent. I just want to ask of you, my colleagues, let us be logical also. Don't dare do something because it is politically convenient for you today, but tomorrow you don't know where you'd stand. Mr. Speaker, as a final point, we were informed, if you read the notes that have been presented on our tablets, that an impeachment process is sequential and consequential, that it follows a particular sequence. Therefore, if the sequence that was supposed to be followed at the county assembly wasn't followed, then the consequence is an impeachment hasn't been done.
Senator Malala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been here for the last 2 days, listening to the submissions from both factions. And I wouldn't like to delve deep into the issue of the case. I would like to derive some lessons from the impeachment process. Mr. Speaker, there is a need for us to review the impeachment process of governors, Mr. Speaker. I have been following this process keenly, Mr. Speaker, and just on 2 issues. The first issue, Mr. Speaker, is that when a governor is elected on a joint ticket with his deputy. But when he's impeached, he is impeached alone. We will be making proposals to the Constitution that when you impeach a governor, since he was elected on a single ticket with his deputy, then both are deemed to be impeached. Mr. Speaker, I speak because we have deputy governors who have started plotting for their governors. They have realized that the only shortcut to them ascending to governorship is by impeaching their governors. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we look into this matter more deeply. Second, Mr. Speaker, as I was following these debates, Mr. Speaker, I enjoyed the time the so learned friends were making deliberations and wanting to make sure that everything is legally right, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we had from the defense side, we had from the county assembly side, making serious submissions, Mr. Speaker. But the sad bit about these submissions, Mr. Speaker, that the decision the Senate is going to make right now is not based on the submissions that these people have made, but is based on the political inclination that we have been whipped to vote, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I shall be making submissions, Mr. Speaker, to review the Constitution so that when a matter such as the impeachment of a governor comes before the Senate, we form a quasi-judicial committee which will look into the matter more logically, come up with rulings and reasons as to why the said governor should be impeached. So I am just looking at this thing. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, just 1 minute because I'm a leader.
No. Order.
I'm a leader.
No, order, Senator Malala.
I'm a leader.
Order, members. Order. I must manage the time. Order, members. I must manage the. I don't want order. I'm not going to set a precedence by adding anybody time. We have a lot of interest. Let us hear everyone. Senator Ali.
I appreciate the time given. It's short. Mr. Speaker, sir, here we have a problem as
Order, senators.
The learned friends or the learned colleagues here want to take all the time and they want to repeat, and the leadership also. You should not be standing every time and other members have time and you don't give it. Yes, I want to put that point. Mr. Speaker, sir, contents of speech 96 states, number 965 states, it shall be out of order for a senator to criticize or call to question the proceedings in the National Assembly, County Assembly, or the Speaker's ruling. When we are doing that here, and our leadership is doing that, are we doing the right thing? That's one question I want to know. And is that the way to go? How do we criticize our own standing orders and whatever? Mr. Speaker, sir, the other one, If we want to change, we will change, but we don't need to criticize. Number two, the time lapse. This gentleman, the governor and his team, the impeachment was done on 18th. They never bothered to do anything. They are telling us that this thing is out of time, we are not the right place, this is not the right jurisdiction, accusing us and hitting their chest here as if they own the Senate, Mr. Speaker. The lawyers of the governor today were misbehaving. If I was the Speaker, I would have thrown some of them out, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, that's just by the way. Mr. Speaker, sir, what happened here was not right. People had more than 1.5 months. They didn't do anything. And then they come here and then they say, we were only given 3 days. What were they doing all that time? The other issue, Mr. Speaker, if a lady, a widow, whose land was grabbed, and because of the ombudsman, the land was returned, if that is not an offense, I don't know what is an offense. Number three, somebody who disclaims his own family, who says, this is not my wife, these are not my children. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is crazy. We have the pictures, we have a witness, we have the witness who was there when the wedding was being done.
Senator Nderitu, what's your point of order? Order, Senator.
Asante mwenyekiti. Speaker, kwa sababu gavana mwenyewe alisema si bibi yake. Alisema si bibi yake ama watoto wake. Itakujaje senator wa kutoka umbali upande ule mwingine anajua ni bibi yake?
That's not the point of order, Mr. Speaker. The governor did not talk about that. He never said this is not my wife or my child. But the county assembly member said he attended the wedding. And we have pictures of those weddings, Mr. Speaker. These are facts, and we have been informed. If anybody who can disclaim his family, that person does not need to be in that office. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Kajwang Moses.
Mr. Speaker, allow me to thank and congratulate the members of the County Assembly of Kiambu for bringing this matter to the Senate. You should not feel wrong. You should not suffer a crisis of confidence for having brought this matter to the Senate. Whether the Senate supports you or does not agree with you, this is a constitutional process that nobody should punish you for undertaking. I also want to thank the executive because they came before the Senate even though they did not appear before the Assembly. Mr. Speaker, my view is that impeachment is more about political responsibility and accountability rather than criminality and culpability. Those are issues that would be settled in the competent courts, in the High Court, all the way to the Supreme Court. But Mr. Speaker, there's a song that young people, our teenage sons and daughters, listen to today. It is a song about choices and consequences and the things we can live with or the things we cannot live with. Mr. Speaker, when you find time when we retire later on, please Google this song. It is called Pombe Sigara. The singer says that there are some things he can live with, but there are certain things that he cannot live without. Mr. Speaker, the laws, the standing orders do not allow me to do a rendition, but otherwise I would have told you the things he cannot live without. Mr. Speaker, I can live with some infractions of the PFM. Pending bills is a problem across all counties. The wage bill is a problem across all counties. Every governor is appointing people directly, Mr. Speaker. When we sat with the governor for Bungoma, he had appointed a lot of people who are called communication officers, and he said that the SRC had allowed them to appoint people who are personal staff. They're appointing cooks and gardeners and watchmen and drivers and advisors across the 47 counties. But, Mr. Speaker, the thing I cannot live with is dispossession of a widow of her inheritance. Mr. Speaker, that fits within the three corners of the ABC triangle. It is an abuse of power, it is betrayal of trust, it is corruption. Mr. Speaker, it is unconstitutional, it is criminal, it is immoral, it is impeachable. Mr. Speaker, we are going to take a vote on the three charges. I believe that there are things that the governor would have been advised to do better without being impeached. But there are certain things. The purpose of leadership is to shield the weak against the tyranny of the strong. And the governor failed in that in that case. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the people of Kiambu, the Senate will not solve their problems. Impeachment will not solve your problems. You are a rich and endowed county. You have the president. You have great sons and daughters. You are a great county. Please go back to Kiambu. Deal with your problems. When you call your next BBI rally, let it be.
Senator Halake.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to support the proposed removal from office by impeachment of Honorable Ferdinand Ndungu Waititu Babayao, the governor of Kiambu County, for the following reasons. Mr. Speaker, as has been said, an impeachment process, of course, is largely concerned with abuse of power, and determining whether someone has abused power can be a bit tricky because you know, there's not straightforward standards that could be applied that can be said fits everything, and therefore that is the reason why legal judgments have not been found to be sufficient, and our constitutional framers have seen it fit to put a process of impeachment in place for checks and balances to avoid a situation where everything's about criminality, but also the political responsibility is taken care of. Mr. Speaker, I have sat here and listened to both the councils of the governor and of the county assembly. They have sifted through evidence. They've called witnesses. They've cross-examined them, and with all this, I have very good reasons to believe that a lot of the things that that the governor has been accused of are impeachable. Mr. Speaker, we live in a country where our standards have become so low that we look around and say, but this happens everywhere. The fact that it happens everywhere, the fact that it happens in every county doesn't make it right, doesn't make it unimpeachable. And therefore, I think we need, as a country, to raise our bar and to make sure that when wrongs are done, people pay for them. Mr. Speaker, nobody, and I have watched and sat at the back of this house and observed raw partisanship that has seeped into the echelons of this august house, and it's really saddening to see the raw partnership that has brought a lot of emotion on the floor of this house, to the point of actually excusing something that is so impeachable that there's no question in terms of the checks and balances that we as the county, as the Senate, should be guarding against. Mr. Speaker, let me remind, I know we've all spoken about the oath of office. What is this oath of office that we as senators, just for a reminder, we have said that having been elected member of the Senate, that we swear in the name of God that we will bear true faith and allegiance to the people and the Republic of Kenya, that we will obey, respect, uphold, preserve, protect, defend this Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, and that we will faithfully and conscientiously discharge the duties of a member of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, just in case we forget, the duties of a member of parliament is oversight, and we at the primary level have another constitutional institution in the name of the county assembly that has done its job at the primary level. We at the, Mr. Speaker,
you have run out of time. Senator Amos Wako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 3 points. One, it was alleged by one of the councils that this whole meeting is an illegality of the Senate. I want just to clarify that it is not an illegality, because as was pointed out, when you come to the computation of time, the period between the first Thursday of December to the second Tuesday of February, we are not in session according to our standing orders. And because we are not in session, the provisions of the interpretation, and General Provisions Act 57B apply. This relates to the computation of time. I'm just trying to really clarify that so that the public knows that we are properly constituted. If the last day of the period is Sunday or a public holiday, or all official non-working days. So the period between December and January, as I have stated, it's a non-working day. These are deemed to be excluded days from the computation of time under any act of law. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are within the law at our meeting. The second point I want to refer to, Mr. Speaker, sir, is now our jurisdiction. Mr. Speaker, sir, the matter that we are supposed to investigate under these proceedings, it is to investigate under Clause 2, investigate the matter. And what is that matter we are supposed to investigate under impeachment proceedings, Mr. Speaker, sir? It is the particulars of allegations against the governor. Our jurisdiction is confined to investigating particulars of allegations against the governor, and not just everything as we were led to believe. Now, it may very well be that the situation was such that there were some matters incidental to this, like the issue of jurisdiction. Now, if we come to that,
I have run out of time. Senator, I said I will not set a precedence, and I want to maintain that. You've made your point. Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I want to thank you for this opportunity. Maybe 3 questions or 3 points I want to raise. One, we have sat patiently for the last 2 days listening to many submissions by both the governor and the county assembly. And it is so sad that the standard that has been set in the 8 impeachment proceedings that have been made by the House, the provisions of Article 181 will not be met, because most of those charges that have been preferred are not as gross violation of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, sir, secondly, there has been no nexus that links the governor between the charges and on the part of either commission or omission of the governor, Mr. Speaker, sir. And therefore, even the issues of evidence, issues of impeachment as a tool of good governance, Mr. Speaker, sir, we should do the right thing, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, even if today the decision has to be made that Governor Waititu will be impeached, it will haunt us forever, because we never gave him the opportunity to give his side of the story or the evidence that was given. Be it the factional that you want to call by the Tangatanga, Kieleweke, BBI, ODM, NASA, it will not be remembered when the history of this House will be written or will be referred by us and the posterity that will come up to us, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, even as we discuss this, we must be aware that even as Article 96 gives us power to protect the devolution and to protect the counties. If today we become part and process in ongoing and get into the dirty words of political machinations and propaganda and deep state of Kiambu County politics, Mr. Speaker, sir, we should have raised beyond those partisan interests that are in Kiambu. Mr. Speaker, sir, we should allow counties to function. We should allow the devolution to function in this country, Mr. Speaker, sir. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I conclude, I want to implore my colleagues that when history will be written, when answered will be revisited, it will haunt us forever. I know for Waititu is a case where government eats its own children. I know because Waititu is being impeached is because of politics. There is nothing else. Let us stop all these stories and glossing over. He is being impeached because of politics.
Order.
And I oppose.
Order, Senator. First of all, you are out of order. First of all, order. Honorable members, let us reduce our emotions. Order, members. Remember, the whole world is watching us. A decision has yet to be taken on whether he's being impeached or not. And you are going to be given that opportunity through a vote to vote the way you want. So please let us reduce these emotions so that we are able to proceed well. Senator Olekina.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank you. Mr. Speaker, sir, it has been repeated here constantly that the governor was not given a chance to be heard. which is not true. I think we should be a house of reason. Our standing orders are very clear, Mr. Speaker, sir. When a governor chooses to appear before the Senate to participate in his impeachment, he is called upon to respond to every single allegation. The letter, Mr. Speaker, sir, that, or rather, the PO, the preliminary objection, in my view, Mr. Speaker, sir, and to quote the words of the former Chief Justice, Willie Mutunga, has been moved more as a sword than a shield. Such is not permitted, as it ought to occasion an injustice to the applicant and indeed to the wider public interest. Mr. Speaker, sir, Article 159(2) of this Constitution also reiterated that. It states clearly that justice shall be administered without undue regards to procedurals and technicalities. When we talk about an issue of quorum, which has been raised in this House, Mr. Speaker, sir, the public ought to know that the issue of quorum is not an afterthought. It may be a fundamental issue for any legislative process, but it is not an afterthought. Mr. Speaker, sir, I saw the letter by the Speaker of the Kiambu Assembly. And when the governor comes and states that there was no quorum, in my view, what the governor is doing is that he is now also questioning the office of the Speaker. And if indeed that process was not proper, or it was not, because in my view it's a prima facie proof that all legal procedures have been followed, in that case, unless it is contended and challenged as a fraud, then in this House we must make a determination based on what has been presented, based on the facts that has been submitted here by the Assembly. And I want to remind you, as I end, that the genius of an impeachment, as once said by someone, lays in the fact that it could punish an individual, but not the office. We're not here to punish the office, but if some...
Senator Sakajada.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yet again, throughout this trial, I've been representing members of the House who are not learned friends, but highly educated, and they make the majority of the House, because we have only 3 senior counsel. Mr. Speaker, I've been a senator for 2 years, 151 days, and 4 hours. And Mr. Speaker, in that period, this is the first time we've gone through such a process, and I'd like to commend senators for sitting through it, as well as the lawyers who represented both sides. Mr. Speaker, going very quickly, because I've heard what my colleagues have said in many words. We need to realize one thing, Mr. Speaker. There's been the argument that we are not thinking about the stakes in this case. Every side has brought its issues, and I'm glad that the County Assembly was represented and they brought their issues. Mr. Speaker, from my little understanding, when you file a preliminary objection, even in the court of law, you accompany it with your pleadings, with your witness statements, so that in case the PO is dismissed, you quickly go into trial. I feel very strongly that the governor actually has been misled by his legal team, and it's his choice. But if those issues were brought to us, Mr. Speaker, we'd have listened to it. Let it go down on record that Governor Ferdinand Waititu Babayao has had his right to be heard by the Senate. And we actually have heard him even in his closing statements. But Mr. Speaker, the stakes in this case is not about the career of an individual. Protecting devolution is not protecting an individual. The stakes are the lives of millions of residents of Kiambu. The stakes is not about somebody's family, etc. It is about all of those who could have either been disinherited from that plot of land, all of those who depend on a country that stands against corruption. The threshold that we have in the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, Article 181, it says very simply that if you have serious reasons to believe that that crime has been committed, Mr. Speaker, the threshold is above balance of probabilities and below reasonable doubt in a criminal case. And I think this House has been convinced. I'd like to urge senators. Senator Aaron has said that let us be logical. But beyond being logical, let us be ethical. It cannot be that we say, oh, this was not the wife because you've not brought a certificate. Mr. Speaker, we all know the First Lady of Kenya is Margaret Kenyatta. She's the wife of the President. Who has seen the wedding certificate? We all know the wife of Deputy President Ruto is Rachel. Have you seen the certificate? Let us not be legalistic, but let us be ethical and let it be known. Let it be remembered. Senator Cherargei is saying that we will regret. Let it be remembered, let it go down in history, that the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, as you make your decision, has stood with Kenyans today and has made a decision that is right.
Senator Samson Ongeri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One question that we must ask ourselves, when you query the quorum of the Kiambu County Assembly, I expected that the governor with his team will provide an affidavit of the people who did not attend that function. I waited for it, I didn't see it. So we have no business to listen to fable stories that there was no quorum. We have a duty as Senate to accept the letter of transmission from the Kiambu County Speaker that was the authentic quorum that brought us those material here. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I heard the governor on oath saying that the wife that was cited, no, he was never sworn, but he gave a statement in this House that the wife who was cited in corruption with his family was not a family member. I expected him to produce an affidavit decanting that the lady cited in corruption was not his wife, that the children cited in corruption were not his daughters, and I would have had an opportunity and be persuaded to listen that that was possible. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, one of the things that I find it irreconcilable when you are saying that we must prove beyond doubt, reasonable doubt, gross misconduct. What can be gross misconduct other than depriving a widow, leave alone a married lady, a widow, her only level of subsistence by being able to find a way of forcing her under duress to be able to bring about a change of the title deed. Commission of Administrative Justice did the right thing. It's a constitutional mandate. On those 3 points alone, Mr. Speaker, I'm fully persuaded that he is to go home. Thank you.
Senator Susan Kihika.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have also been in the House for the last 2 days and listened very closely to the submissions by both sides. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm quite astounded when I hear senators talk about the process not being important. When they talk about that as Senate, we should probably, I guess what I'm hearing is that we should just be rubber stamps, and whatever is brought to us, we should not interrogate. We should not question the validity of the process, but just proceed with what is before us. Mr. Speaker, I disagree with that, and I believe that even in our standing orders, and the fifth schedule, number 2, the Senate shall in plenary investigate the matter and determine whether the particulars of the allegations against the governor have been substantiated. Mr. Speaker, from the evidence that I've had in the last 2 days, first of all, I would like, and I want the record to reflect, that we never got any evidence as to
senators,
whether...
let's consult in low tones.
Mr. Speaker, we never got any evidence brought before the House, and it is not for us to provide it, nor is it for the governor to provide, as to whether the issue of quorum was ever addressed. We had the first speaker, the mover of the motion at the county assembly, say that he was not sure whether the 62 out of 92, which is the 2/3, were in the house. So when we brought a motion here, when it's brought here and there is question as to whether the quorum was there, then I do not even believe we should have been able to proceed without that having been determined. The fact that it was ruled on today as opposed to yesterday, I also believe prejudiced the side of the governor. We also had some very serious contention that the governor was not given, his right to be heard was taken away. When his counsel went to the county assembly and wanted to present the case on behalf of the governor or to respond, they were told from the evidence that came out here to just sit in the gallery with everybody else. So it's a miscarriage of justice, and I believe that due process must be followed. As the Senate, it is our job and it is our duty to make sure that the process was proper, and it is also our job to make sure that we interrogate the process. So everything else that comes after that is questionable because I believe that the process was not properly handled at the county assembly level. However, regardless of the outcome of the Senate today, I am happy that we have the courts in this country that maybe work as the buffer at the end of the day, given the miscarriage of justice that I've just had here. The fact on the land issue, which has been brought as a very emotional issue, at the end of the day, we are not supposed to deal with emotions. We are supposed to get raw facts and evidence. They were short on that, but they really did stoke our emotions. So we never saw any affidavits from the widow. She was never brought forward. So to me, that evidence has not been substantiated. And because it has not been, then I would not...
Senator Wambua Enoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to also contribute to this motion. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by saying that really this is a very unfortunate case. It is my first case on impeachment as a first-term governor. The Speaker, a lot of my colleagues have said that they fault the lawyers on the side of the governor for maybe misadvising the governor on the filing of evidence. I am not very sure, Mr. Speaker, whether we can make that determination, whether the lawyers failed or maybe the governor did not take good advice. Mr. Speaker, I say this because reference has been made, not once, not twice, but 3 times, on bundles of evidence lying in the office of the chief, the chief sergeant at arms office. And Speaker, those documents lying there will not help the governor in any way. They will not help us in making any decision. Those documents would have been very helpful to the governor and to this house if they were filed in good time. The Speaker, I want to say this, that in view of the failure by the governor to file his evidence the right time, this house is left with only one case. The charges as adduced by the assembly. And the decision that will be made by this house, Mr. Speaker, will be a decision based on the evidence adduced by the assembly of Kiambu. The Speaker, it is very unfortunate that the governor, either by bad advice or by refusing to listen to good advice, did not even have an opportunity to call a single witness to rebut a single charge against him. The Speaker, as we make a decision, it should be noted that the decision that you're going to make today is not just about Governor Waititu. It is also about the more than 1 million residents of Kiambu County. And where I come from, Mr. Speaker, public opinion is very important in making decisions about people and their leaders. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Linturi.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will be very brief. And since most of the speakers have agreed or alluded to the fact that this being quasi-judicial, Mr. Speaker, I want to basically say that in the proceedings we are not really bound by the strict rules of evidence. And Mr. Speaker, when we are determining this matter, what we are being called upon to do in the absence of this evidence, or in the absence of evidence before us, is that basically we are going to determine on this matter by having failed to admit evidence on the basis of a technicality, which in my view is a violation of Article 159, sub-Article 2 of the Constitution of this Republic. Mr. Speaker, the matter that we are deciding on is very weighty. The election of a governor, the office of a governor, Mr. Speaker, the authority under which he acts, is through the donation by the people of this Republic. And Mr. Speaker, that being the case, one of the questions that I would beg the members of this House to think and answer by way of their conscience when voting is whether a county assembly composed of 57 members, the senators, 47 people, because those are the delegations that have authority and power to vote on such an important motion, is whether, Mr. Speaker, it will be fair, whether it's constitutional, whether it is right to oust the power of the people of Kiambu who decided to elect Governor Waititu as their governor, whether that authority from them can be ousted by a number of people of less than 100. Mr. Speaker, I am persuaded to believe that recognizing the prevailing circumstances under which the governor was required to collect that information and bring it before us, and having explained himself by the virtue of the fact that he was banned from office, and having failed to get, in my view, the county assembly, having failed to substantiate the matters, this matter is being decided on the basis as if it is not defendant, though I'm not convinced that there is substantive evidence that requires, or that has made the threshold of him being kicked out of office. And for that matter, Mr. Speaker, when there is doubt, my view is that that benefit of doubt should be to the benefit of the Governor Waititu. Mr. Speaker, I am very, very, very reluctant, and it's with a lot of pain that this is happening. It is happening, and I do not want to cast aspersions on anybody, but this being a political process, we cannot run from the politics.
You've run out of order. Senator Mwenyehaji Mohamed.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii. Kwanza ningependa kuunga mkono hoja ya kumpeleka nyumbani Governor Kiambu, Governor Waititu. Mheshimiwa Spika, swala la kwamba hakupewa nafasi ya kujitetea ni swala ambalo si la kweli. Governor Waititu alikuwa hapa jana na leo. Jana alisema katika County Assembly ya Kiambu alikataa kwenda kwa sababu ungekuwa na mtafaruku. Hapa leo amepewa fursa ya kujitetea, lakini akatoa statement ama akatoa taarifa bila ya kula kiapo. Mheshimiwa Spika, swala lililokuwa hapa ni kwamba kulikuwa na ushahidi kwa kiapo kusema kwamba yeye amemuoa bibi anaitwa Susan Wanjiru. Amemuoa bi Susan Wangui Ndungu, mke wake wa ndoa kwa kulingana na mila za Kikikuyu. Mheshimiwa Spika, wakataja watoto wake kwamba wamehusika katika kupewa zabuni katika kaunti ya Kiambu, wakati yeye kama gavana alikuwa hastahili watu wale kupewa zabuni zile. Mheshimiwa Spika, wote ni ushahidi ambao katika mikono ama koti ya mwananchi unamaanisha kwamba ni ushahidi ambao ni wa uhakika wa kuweza kumpata na hatia. Mheshimiwa Spika, hapa sisi tulikuwa hatuko katika kushtakiwa. Mashtaka yalikuwa ni ya Waititu dhidi ya bunge la kaunti ya Kiambu. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, swala lilokuwa hapa ni kwamba maamuzi yetu lazima yazingatie sheria na vile vile pia yazingatie masuala ambayo yako mikononi mwa wananchi. Mheshimiwa Spika, katika mahakama ya mwananchi, mtu anapokataa kula kiapo ni kwamba hasemi ukweli. Kwa sababu yoyote anayekula kiapo anatakana aseme ukweli. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, alipoambiwa aape kwamba yaliyofanyika sio sawa, Governor Waititu aliamua kutoa taarifa tu bila ya kuapa. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba yale yote ambayo yalizungumzwa kwa kiapo ni mambo ambayo hayakupingwa, na kwa lingana na sheria ni kwamba yale mashtaka yote matatu ambayo yamezungumziwa yamepita. Mheshimiwa Spika,
order members, let us converse in low tones.
Mheshimiwa Spika, kulikuwa na ushahidi wa tume ya sheria ya mamlaka ya sheria, Commission for Administrative Justice. Uamuzi ule ulitolewa kutoka Septemba mwezi wa 9 mwaka jana, na gavana Waititu hakuchukua fursa yoyote ya kwenda mahakamani kupinga uamuzi ule, wala hakuchukua fursa yoyote ya kwenda katika tume ile kujitetea katika tume ili kuona kwamba jina lake limesafishwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, kunyamaza wakati tume kama hii ya kisheria ambayo iko katika katiba imetoa maamuzi, Mheshimiwa Spika, ningeomba uniongezee dakika kwa sababu muda wangu mwingi.
Haitawezekana. Order, Senator. Senator Fatuma Dulo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, members. Order, let us be orderly so that we move.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to support this motion. Number one, let me congratulate the County Assembly of Kiambu. Number two, Mr. Speaker, I think the governor of Kiambu and his lawyers intentionally refuse to defend this case. That is my position. Number three, Mr. Speaker, the matters of allegation against the governor that is brought on the floor of this House, Mr. Speaker, is a matter this House has been grappling with over the years. Issues of pending bills. We have said severally that corruption is hidden under pending bills. Secondly, issues of wage bill, Mr. Speaker. There are matters that has been brought severally in Auditor General's report. There are matters this House has discussed severally. When the government has set a ceiling of 35, some counties are at 59%. Mr. Speaker, let me urge those who are going to oppose this motion. From today, if you oppose this motion, you should not discuss issues of pending bills. You should not discuss issues of wage bill. You should not discuss issues of audit reports. That is my position. Finally, Mr. Speaker, something that I will not forgive Governor Waititu is disposition of a property of a widow in that county. Mr. Speaker, I fully support this motion, and this should send a signal to all the governors, because we cannot let this go. We cannot be talking about these things in this House, and when governors appear before us, we say this is politics, and we forget about our responsibility. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mazayo.
Asante bwana Speaker. Pia mimi nataka kuunga mkono hoja hii. Kitu cha kwanza, wahenga walisema mwerevu hajinyoi. Kitu cha kusikitisha,
order members, let us converse. Let's listen to what is.
Wale mawakili wa gavana waliofika hapa hawakuweza kufaili ama kuweka stakabadhi zao za uteteo wa gavana kulingana na yale makosa ambayo yalikuwa yametendwa na yameletwa na serikali ya mashinani ya huko Limuru, ya huko Kiambu. Bwana Spika, walipoulizwa ni kwa sababu gani hamkufanya hivyo, walisema ni kwa sababu badala ya wewe kujitetea pale, sisi tutaambia lile bunge kupitia kwa hii PO ya kwamba bunge lile la Senate halina haki ya kusikiza kesi hii ambayo imewakilishwa na bunge la kaunti ya Kiambu. Bwana Spika, hapo ninaona ya kwamba walijaribu kujinyoa wao wenyewe, na badala ya kumtumikia yule gavana walikuwa wanatumia nafsi zao. Bwana Spika, Nilikuwa nataka kusema ya kwamba pia cha pili, kawaida kisheria mtu akiwa amefile stakabadhi za kujitetea anaruhusiwa pia kufile ile PO ambayo tunaita preliminary objection, na akifika tuone ya kwamba amefile ile yake ya kujitetea, na alafu baadaye aseme ya kwamba kabla hatujasikiza hii kesi ingekuwa vyema tusikize hii PO yangu kwa sababu itasaidia uhamasisho hapa, lakini haikuwezekana. Kwa hiyo wao walijikata maguu wenyewe wasiweze kulalamikia mtu yote. La pili ni kwamba mimi natoka katika eneo la Pwani ambalo lina mateso makubwa sana kulinganishana na hali ya mashamba. Ni aibu kuona mtu kama gavana ananyang'anya mama mjane shamba lake, alafu baada ya kujulikana analiregesha. Sasa sheria inasema ya kwamba si swala la kuregesha shamba kwamba hukufanya makosa. Sheria inaadhibu ile akili ya uhalifu. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, mimi nataka kusisitiza kwamba hoja hii ni muhimu, na hoja hii ni lazima iwe funzo, kama vile dadangu Fatuma alivyosema ya kwamba iwe funzo la wale.
Basi asante sana kwa kuchangia Senator Langat Christopher.
Thank you very just give me time. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me this opportunity to make my comments. First, I must appreciate that the Senate is active fully. Some members who have never been here up to this time, today they are very active, and that is a plus. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the fact that I want to say this is a very important case that has been presented before the Senate. When I saw it in the first instant, Mr. Speaker, I say, wow, it is the great time that at least our governors will see the importance of this particular house. And I want to say, in as much as that one is very important, always in every theory, Mr. Speaker, sir, the end and the process goes together. We cannot ignore the means, because more often than not, the means justify the end. And I want to say that also for the MCAs in their counties to learn that it is very important to follow procedures and the set standards. I tend to think that we should not ignore the fact that the threshold of the numbers was not arrived at. The world is seeing us, and we don't want to set precedent where tomorrow some very few MCAs somewhere might sit and bring an impeachment into this particular house. So I want to say that the process is very important, and we don't want to ignore it. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, I saw also, I'm not saying this out of sympathy or any emotional aversion, but I want to say governors, by the way of everything, have got a lot of fear. It is very true that in some counties, some MCAs are threatening the governors, that unless they do one or two things, they will face impeachment. So in another way, we must also make sure that we raise our standards, so that whenever MCAs bring such particular cases before the Senate, they are also sure that this Senate is not a rubber stamp for their demands that are not constitutional in the process. So I want to say, Mr. Speaker, also that in this case, it's also very unfortunate that the Senate might not have that capacity or the powers to question very much the witnesses that came from the county assembly. As Mr. Malala was saying, in future also I tend to think that we should reinforce what he had said, the fact that when we impeach the governor, his choice was his deputy, and they should go together.
You are out, Senator Mogeni and Okongo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to correct the impression that is being created before this House that Governor Waititu was denied an opportunity to be heard. Mr. Speaker, we all know that an opportunity to be heard does not mean that we pull you to this House and force you to bring evidence so that it can be considered by this House. Opportunity to be heard, Mr. Speaker, means that we accord you an opportunity to present your evidence before this House, Mr. Speaker. And the rules gives Mr. Honorable Waititu 3 days under Rule 6. But what have we seen, Mr. Speaker? We have sat here, accorded Waititu 4 hours. There was no evidence given on oath by Mr. Waititu. There was not even a name of any one witness that was put forth before the Senate who could have come to give evidence to rebut what the Assembly of Kiambu had placed before the Senate. Mr. Speaker, we all appear in tribunals, in courts of law. If you are given an opportunity to present evidence and you don't present it, it will be used against you. It has even been used against the president of this country. In the election petition of 2017, the president was told to avail servers. He did not do it. The Supreme Court nullified his election. So we must send a strong message to the governors that if you are told to come here and adduce evidence, you must do it. If you don't, we have no choice. Mr. Speaker, what are we expected to do? There is even Rule 9 of the 5th schedule, which gives the governor an opportunity to make requests to this House, to summon any witness to appear here. That opportunity was not exercised by Governor Waititu. He had colorful lawyers. But even if you have a good case and you mess it up, how do you help this House? I submit, Mr. Speaker, that without rebuttal of evidence that was placed by the County Assembly of Kiambu, Governor Waititu was himself to blame. I rest my case.
Senator Omanga Millicent.
Mr. Speaker, I would say it's a very sad day in this country as I see my colleagues' debates. Because, Mr. Speaker, this is a house of record. And it's a house of uniformity, consistency, and I would say standards. Mr. Speaker, when we had, I would use Governor Gachagwa's case, the governor of Nyeri County, because it's the only case, when I look back, which came to plenary. And the way the case was treated, Mr. Speaker, is very different from the way the case of Mr. Waititu, the governor of Kiambu, has been treated. First, Mr. Speaker, in the Nyeri case, when the House was taking a decision whether we should go to plenary or we should do committee, the vote was by delegation. But this one for Kiambu, it was different. Everyone had to vote because already people had taken their different political persuasion. The same case of Governor Gachagua, Mr. Speaker, this House was able to admit evidence after the time which was given. So, Mr. Speaker, I ask myself, and some of us who are new legislators in this House, I'm wondering, is it case by case that some governors who come here, the evidence can be admitted whatever time, but some other governors, because I don't know what it is, that the evidence cannot be admitted. Another thing, Mr. Speaker, I'll say, the issue of quorum and the threshold. Mr. Speaker, for this House to disregard the importance of threshold, it's a very sad day. That's what I mean. Today, even the senators here, does it mean if we don't get the 24 delegation, does it mean we'll still pass this Waititu's case? It will not pass because there's a threshold. But, Mr. Speaker, because
what
this
is your
case...
point of order, Senator Khaniri?
Mr. Speaker, it will be...
Take your seat.
Mr. Speaker, it will be very wrong if the statements that have been made by Senator Omanga goes unchallenged and they remain on the Hansard. because she has clearly stated that this House disregarded the issue of threshold. Mr. Speaker, it is my submission that no evidence was put on the table here to prove to us that the County Assembly of Kiambu did not meet the threshold. So is she in order, Mr. Speaker, because she is imputing improper motives on this House?
Okay, I'll add you half a minute.
Mr. Speaker, that's a debate altogether for another day. But I would say again, Mr. Speaker, the deputy minority leader, whip of this House, was on television yesterday morning anticipating debate that we are sending the governor home. I'm asking you, Mr. Speaker, because already this is a leadership of the House. And already then I don't see the point where the governor was appearing in this House because the leadership had already given direction that we are sending the governor home.
Order. I did give direction that I was going to give a ruling on this matter later. So why you are becoming very emotional and sensational? We don't need that drama. Just, please compose yourself and conclude your issue.
And Mr. Speaker, I think I've made my point. The ruling which you were to make is the conflict of interest, where the partner...
I'm very clear in my mind on what I say. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, I would say, with the precedence this House is setting today, it means in the county assemblies, 10 MCAs will be sitting somewhere, impeach a governor. They come to this House, and because most of us are arguing that we have no way of knowing whether the threshold was met, we will continue listening to the case and give and actually give debate on something. For me, literally, this governor was not impeached, Mr. Speaker, because
your time is up. Thank you, Senator Moses Wetangula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be very brief. Mr. Speaker, as we retreat to make our decision, we must bear in mind and consider whether the distinguished governor was given a fair hearing at the County Assembly. That's a point to ponder. Number two, Mr. Speaker, if that was the case, then remember the words of Kathy Kilonzo, that if the process is legitimate, the outcome can be legitimate. Mr. Speaker, number two, I think the office of the Senate in cases such as this must also be helpful to the public. When a governor and his team come to file documents, I think the legal team of the Senate should guide them on what documents to put in and how to file their documents for better consideration by the House. Number three, Mr. Speaker, you know, the impeachment process is very exciting and emotive for all of us. We've gone through 8 of them here. And Mr. Speaker, most of them have ended up being what we know, especially those that we impeached, like Wambora twice. Number 4, Mr. Speaker, I believe that even as the issues are as clear as we're saying, Governor Waititu did not enjoy the full benefit of a fair hearing by excluding his documents. Mr. Speaker, this is not a court of law with the strictest rules of application of procedure. This is quasi-judicial, and we should have taken his documents and looked at them. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge the House that if you have any doubt in your mind, don't destroy this man. If you have any doubt in your mind, cast your vote to assist the cause of justice. Double jeopardy is an issue we should not ignore, because there's another collateral process going on that will give justice to the victims of the omissions and acts of Governor Waititu. Thank you.
Senator Maruma.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity you've given me to support the motion of impeachment of Governor Ferdinand Ndungu Waititu, alias Babayao. For starters, I must say that in these 2 days, we've seen very weighty issues that have been raised by the County Assembly of Kiambu. But I must say, for starters, that I was a bit disappointed that despite the fact that there were very weighty issues raised against the governor, the learned friends on his side were not able to offer rebuttals. That is very unfortunate. Secondly, I would want to say that even on the side of the County Assembly, the type of evidence that we got was not quite tightly knit. Because, for example, if there are issues of procurement, why can't we give, for example, letters of award, tender documents and so on? But having said that, I would like to say I support this motion because of 3 things. Number 1, the job of employment. That mandate is given at the national level on Public Service Commission. At the county level, that mandate is given to the County Public Service Board. When a governor awards or appoints or employs on his own, he is usurping powers of the County Public Service Board, which is contrary to the law. I cannot contemplate at the national level the president signing letters purporting to employ people. So I think that's a grievous issue. I know there is much latitude there's some latitude given to governors to employ some people, but those are advisors, not directors. Directors are public servants and they must be employed by the Public Service Board. Number 2, the role of the governor, as stipulated by Section 33F of the County Government Act, the governor shall be accountable and in the use of public resources. The action of the governor by not ensuring that there is county public CBEF, County Budget Economic Forum, that is carelessness. It means that he's not really accountable. Number 1, in his own words, he has said that he allowed tenders to be given for road construction to run 3 years. How do you do that? How can you do that? It means that the governor is not keen to be accountable. The third thing I would like to say is that the governor grabbed, or is alleged to have grabbed land from a widow, which is illegal and immoral. Somebody read Exodus 22, which states that you should not
Order members, let's consult in low tones.
You should not oppress a widow. So,
Senator Nderitu John Kinywa.
Asante sana Bwana Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii. Sauti ninazosikia hapa zote zinasema msulubu, msulubu, msulubu Waititu. Lakini swali ninalojiuliza mimi, vile mswada ulikuja ukafika hapa, ulitumia njia ambayo inafaa? Viwango vinavyohitajika katika kaunti zetu vilifuatwa? Mimi nikiwa kama mwenyekiti wa ugatuzi, swali ninalojiuliza ni ya kwamba ikiwa sheria zetu zinasema kinaga ubaga na dhahiri kabisa ya kwamba kunapaswa kuwa na kiwango fulani kwa madiwani katika kaunti zetu, lakini ikiwa hiyo haiku kulingana na wakili pale maswali yalivyoulizwa, ikiwa kile kiwango hakikuwa kimefikishwa, sisi kama seneti tunapaswa kuwa tukisikiza mswada huo. Itakuwa ni jambo la kuvunja moyo sana wakati swala hili litakapopelekwa kotini na sisi tutaulizwa kama seneti hatukufanya vile ambavyo inapaswa kuwa. Mimi nina uoga, mimi ninatetemeka, kwa sababu ni vizuri sisi wenyewe sisi tuwe tunafuata mfano mwema, kwa sababu tulipokuwa tukiongea hapa, kura ilipopigwa tulisema ya kwamba hatutapatia muda zaidi kwa sababu muda umekwisha, lakini sisi wenyewe hatufuati ile sheria. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri, mzungu anasema, kwa sababu pengine what is good for the goose must be good for the gander. Sisi tunapaswa tuwe kutumia huo mswada nakwambia wananichanganya Bwana Spika, unapaswa kunizuia.
Endelea.
Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, mimi mwenyewe ninasema ya kwamba sisemi ya kwamba Waititu asurubiwe, lakini vile nasema ya kwamba ni kama vile mahakama kuu ilisema ya kwamba ni mpaka maafikiano na mswada mambo yafuatwe vizuri kabisa kabla hujafanya chochote, kwa sababu matokeo yake italingana na vile kama tutakuwa tumefuata sheria. Ikiwa tufuate sheria, Bwana Spika, mimi leo ninasema wanasema msulubu, lakini jamani, ndugu zangu, ni vizuri kuangalia sheria, kwa sababu mambo yote yanapaswa kulingana kwa mujibu wa sheria zilizowekwa katika nchi hii yetu ya Kenya. Asante sana.
Senator Kabaka.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I am disturbed as a practitioner of law for the last 28 years. Mr. Speaker, sir, as much as a lawyer would have wanted to help my brother, Governor Waititu, I'm disturbed why documents were not filed within time. For lawyers, all of them here, they know we have two branches of law, two system of law. We have the substantive law and procedural law. Substantive law deals with the positive law. But procedural law, where now we are deal with the procedure. And that procedure, Mr. Speaker, sir, is founded in a specific act of parliament, like a civil procedure, where matters civil are managed. In the criminal justice, we have Criminal Procedure Act. Mr. Speaker, we even have what we call inimical procedures, which are well specified in a specific act. For example, in Companies Act, the procedure of winding up companies is found there. It's not found in civil procedure. Matters of succession in Succession Act. Matters of, Mr. Speaker, matters to deal with arbitration, the procedure is found therein. Mr. Speaker, sir, when Parliament specifies that something has to be done within given time, that becomes mandatory. Mr. Speaker, sir, therefore, that's why I'm saying I'm disturbed why documents were not filed within the prescribed time. And indeed, what has transpired in this Senate is what lawyers call an ex parte kind of hearing, where we are just looking on one side of the matter. And therefore, evidence which has been adduced by the county assembly is uncontroverted per se, even though there was cross-examination. Mr. Speaker, sir, the High Court has what we call supervisory jurisdiction for bodies like us, ourselves, at the Senate. And therefore, the High Court, referring to what we call judicial review, will have to review only matters which have been canvassed at the lower bodies, like a tribunal. Now, in absence of such important documents, like evidence, Mr. Speaker, sir, there will be a problem with the High Court. To give me...
Okay, your time is up. Senator Boy Issa Juma.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kunipa fursa hii. Kusema la kweli Mheshimiwa Spika, sitachukua muda mwingi, bali nitachukua kama dakika 2 tu au dakika 1.5. Mheshimiwa Spika, kusema la kweli tumewahi kusikia mahojiano upande wa Mheshimiwa Governor Waititu na kwa County Assembly ya Kiambu. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi kama seneta wenzangu ambao niko hapa, mimi naomba kuambia wa seneta wenzangu na wasikie vizuri maneno haya nitakwambia. Kwamba kuna mambo mengine, natoa mfano kama sisi viongozi tukisafiri tukienda kama Nairobi au Mombasa airport. Hata kama mimi ni senator, lakini nikifika pale navua saa, navua mkanda, navua viatu, kwa sababu ninaheshimu sheria, ninaheshimu ofisi yangu. Kwa hivyo lazima kuangalia kwamba kama wewe umepewa madaraka, kama ni governor, kama ni mbunge, ufate sheria. Kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, kama yule mama mjani ambaye ardhi yake imechukuliwa na mtu ambaye alikuwa kwenye madaraka, ambaye ni makosa. Wewe kama mwananchi umepewa wadhifa wa kazi, ufanye kazi yako. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi naunga mkono hii hoja ya kumimpeach huyu governor wa Waititu, kwa sababu kwamba ni kwa sababu ya kisiasa, si siasa. Hoja yenyewe imeeleza kiwaziwazi na kinaganaga. Ukiangalia upande wa matumizi wa kifedha kuna matatizo. Ukiangalia upande wa kuajiri watu. Kwa hivyo ndugu zangu ni maseneta wenzangu, hii shughuli ya leo kwa siku ya leo Kenya nzima tuangalia. Kaunti zote 47 katika Kenya tuangalia sisi seneta hapa. Kwa hivyo tuwe na msimamo mmoja ili tuweze kusimama kwamba sisi kama maseneta tumeamua iwe ni kama funzo na kwa watu wote wa Kenya kwamba seneta ya Kenya inafanya kazi na inatambua shida za wananchi. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator.
Mr. Speaker, I want to point out some 3 observations. First, I want to congratulate the County Assembly of Kiambu for having exercised their constitutional power. And 2, it has been a very exciting day. 2 days for those of us who have never sat in such a kind of an exercise to impeach a governor. So we have really learned quite a lot. And Mr. Speaker, there are 3 things I want to point out. As a house, we need to protect the Constitution. We also need to protect counties. We need to protect devolution. Why I'm saying so is because we need to follow timelines. In this process, there was a question on the timeline, both in the processing of the motion to this House, it came late, and again, there was also a delay in submission of documents. And therefore, we need to encourage the county assemblies, not only the Kiambu Assembly, but all over the country, the 47, we need to encourage them to follow the law. If it means submissions, it should be done on time, and also processes should be followed on time. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, as I finish, there are other institutions that we also need to be very keen when we are investigating the powers they have in the counties. When I was looking at this issue of the lands, there are institutions that deal with land transfers in the counties. And why were they to take advantage of the powers of the governor to transfer these ladies' lands to the county governor? And so I thought it was important to have seen at least the title processed, which has been processed. It should have been given to us here to see at least. We should have also heard from the land registrar on the issue of why was he to be forced to transfer land to a governor. Finally, I also want to say that there is also public participation in our constitution, which needed to have been followed. And everyone has a right, which is enshrined in our constitution, to be heard, be it in the county assemblies and also in the Senate. And therefore, I want to say that it was a great time for many of us who have sat for the first time to listen to the learning.
Okay, your time is up. Honorable Senators, I now want to give 2 more senators. That is Senator Kangata, and finally the senator for Kiambu, Senator Wamatangi. No, the rest of you have had an opportunity to say something, so we cannot live in this.
Thank you.
And I've been very fair. I've looked around and I've given those who have not.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, an issue has been raised concerning the argument that the governor, when he came to this house, he was not able to file his documents within time, and therefore he thinks the trial is prejudiced against him. My advice to the governor and also the council who was handling is that they ought to have been more strategic, in the sense that once you are served with documents, if you are unable to bring all documents within the set times, at least you can be able to file some few documents within that time. I say that because...
What's your point of order, Senator Khaniri?
When you look at...
Order, Senator Kangata.
Mr. Speaker, I rise pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 99, which talks of a declaration of interest. We know that there's a matter that is awaiting your ruling, Mr. Speaker, on the pecuniary interests of the Senator for Muranga in this matter. We were told clearly that he is a partner in the law firm that was defending the governor. And our standing orders are clear. Standing order number 99 says a senator who wishes to speak on a matter in which the senator has a pecuniary or a proprietary interest shall first declare that interest. Mr. Speaker, Senator Kangata has not declared his interest.
What's your point of order, Senator Murkomen?
Mr. Speaker, you know, Senator Kangata and I went to the University of Nairobi School of Law, where in his short moment of problems as a student leader, Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. represented him in court. No, it was actually Senator Mutula, I'm sure you were the lawyer of the university, but helped him to get out anyway. Mr. Speaker, the main issue that many senators are attributing to their decision or their support for the motion is that the lawyers of Waititu failed the governor. Mr. Speaker, Senator Kangata, by his own admission, has said he has personal relationship, having been partners with Njenga and George, who all of us went to University of Nairobi. Mr. Speaker, having admitted that, Mr. Speaker, on the floor of this House, how will the country expect Senator Kangata to vote in a situation where the main decision why the members of this House have a problem with the ultimate decision is his own partners, Mr. Speaker?
Order, senators. No, sit. Take your seat first. Take your seat, Senator Kangata.
No, allow me to.
No, I'm going to allow you, but I want to make.
Just to reply to them.
Okay. So take your seat. Order, Senator Kangata. That's why I wanted you to talk last, because then we can make progress. You know, there's a point of order that has been raised, and it's so straightforward. Just declare whether you have an interest in the matter. Just that. You know, he declared the other time. But now we are in session. I want him to be on record.
Yes. Charles Jenga was my partner between 2009 and 2018. Then I left the law firm of Mushoki, Kangata, Jenga to form my own law firm, Irongo Kangata, which presently does not have any association with Mushoki, Kangata, Jenga. And therefore, on this matter, I have no pecuniary interest at all.
Okay, proceed.
Thank you. Now, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my strategy, my advice would have been, once you have served with the documents, even if you are unable to bring all the documents within the
Be on record. You are not on record. Put your mic on. What's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, this is a house of rules. And he has declared, yes, that he moved from the law firm. Are there any evidence to show this? Because we are really worried. Yesterday, yes, earlier there was an announcement. I have the floor. I think I have the floor.
Order, Senator.
Yesterday, our learned friend here already predetermined the motion, and the motion was the issue. The process was being handled by his lawyer. So this is, Mr. Speaker, a very serious issue that needs us to not to be very casual in terms of we are just hearing the story that he moved from the law firm. But how do we get to know that?
Order. I want to say this. Order, senators, Senator Shionga. We are all honorable members. And Honorable Kangata has given his version. If you have anything to the contrary, bring it to me so that I make a ruling. Otherwise, he has said he moved, and we take his word as an honorable member of this House. What's your point of order, Senator Linturi?
Mr. Speaker, I entirely agree with your directions. But I think I want you to hear me, Mr. Speaker. I think it's also important for purposes of record for Senator Kangata to go further then, because I have no issue with the declaration that he has made, and further say that the statements that he made, because the standing holders, right, the standing holders are coached in a way that any matter that is before the Senate, that we are stopped from making comments on them outside the Senate. So because yesterday, I said, alluded to this fact, Mr. Speaker, when I spoke, and which you have not made a response to, that your own TV on Nation, on Citizen, that he indeed said that this was the time to kick Governor. Was it in order for him to do that?
Order, senators. You know you are raising a different matter. You raised your matter, and I said I will be making a ruling on Senator Kangata's issue and Senator Mwaura's issue. Later on, I will be giving a direction, and I mentioned that. So let Senator Kangata proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, my proposal would have been, yes, it is true, even if you are unable to bring all the documents in the first instance, at least bring some documents, whether a statement of defense, whether at least some list of witnesses. That to me would have been better. You would have been able at least to bring witnesses, but not to be heard that he is unable to do so because of the timelines. Mr. Speaker, the Supreme Court has handled the issue of timelines. And as correctly said by other councils who have come here, the issue of timelines are crucial. They are aimed at ensuring the process is fair to each and every person. And therefore, once we provide for timelines, file this document within certain timelines. For me, you ought to file them within those timelines. Mr. Speaker, sir, for me, there are three issues for determination. Issue number one, do we have enough evidence to convict? So far, we know what kind of evidence exists before us. Number two, what about the so-called issues concerning purported violations of the law at the assembly level? For me, Mr. Speaker, sir, that has been ably discussed by my colleagues on how to respond to that issue. Number three, and most importantly, the problems that our counties are currently facing. We all know, we all come to counties. What can we do as a Senate to ensure we remedy those problems that currently are facing our people? Remember, we do not have water, whereas those issues are devolved. We do not have roads which are being made by governors. What can we do as a Senate, and what opportunities this process affords us? Thank you.
Okay, Senator Mwaura.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from the word go, I want to say that this process has really shown us that we need proper legal mechanism for impeachment. Because if you look at even Article section number 30 of the subsection 9 there, it says that we need to put in place a measure where if a governor is going to be impeached on the basis of incapacity, that procedure should be properly provided. I think there are so many lacunas in law to the extent that it is not a requirement, for example, that we should look at the threshold. And I think that's where people are getting confused. Is it the threshold or is it the quorum of who actually voted to impeach Governor Ferdinand Waititu? But, Mr. Speaker, having said that, I think we are here, and as a quasi judicial process, it also means that therefore that we are also quasi-political. So we need to make sure that we really, cover this very well, so that then we are seen also to be as impartial as possible. Mr. Speaker, because this is a political process. But having also noted that concern, is that, Mr. Speaker, when you look at the way the lawyers presented themselves, I think they were coming to stop this impeachment under preliminary objections. And that is why they actually disadvantaged Governor Ferdinand Waititu. Because when we voted in the morning, and that is what Governor Waititu was alluding to, 27 against 11, not to admit evidence, then there was no case, because he spent a lot of hours fumbling about 4 points of law, about whether there was a quorum for meets threshold, about whether we were properly constituted as Senate, and then other issues to do with the general evidence issues. So, Mr. Speaker, what I want to tell this Senate is that this matter is germane. The roads that are being said, some of them were constructed 2 years later, they are potholes. The people of Kiambu want justice. And there is a quagmire in the leadership of Kiambu County. This Senate is called upon to make a determination not to save an individual, but to ensure that service delivery is actually guaranteed to the people of Kiambu. Why? Because you have a governor who is out of office. You have a deputy governor who does not have full powers. Who is suffering here? It's about the people. And remember, the reason why we are here is because Governor Waititu was actually charged before a court of law. And the charges are as severe as has been demonstrated, even if we are not supposed to canvass these matters because they are before the court of law. So I think, Mr. Speaker, the role of the Senate is actually not to sanitize governors.
Finally, Senator Wamatangi.
Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity first to thank all members of the Senate, Mr. Speaker, for the patience that they have demonstrated throughout the sittings for the 2 days, Mr. Speaker, including yourself. Mr. Speaker, this House, most of the time, we know that there are times even when we have challenges in quorum, but it is a demonstration of commitment, Mr. Speaker, that even at this time, on the second day of continuous running of hearings, Mr. Speaker, that this House is still full, and members are patiently waiting to finally ensure that they carry out their constitutional mandate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the debate that we have had, although there has been arguments and cross-arguments, Mr. Speaker, I would want to paraphrase the words of Abraham Lincoln, Mr. Speaker, that we are friends, we are not enemies. And Mr. Speaker, though during the discussions we have had, Mr. Speaker, though passion may have strained, it must not break the bond of our common commitment, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's not been enviable for myself as the senator for the county concerned, sitting there being a lover of debate, that I have to follow the rules, Mr. Speaker.
Order, senators, order. Let's consult in low tone so that we hear what the Senator Kiambu is saying.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, those last 2 days have not been the most exciting for myself as a lover of debate and contributions in this House, but I have to comply with the rules and precedents as set by this House, Mr. Speaker, so that I can allow members to dispassionately and fairly make their determination, Mr. Speaker. I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that the people of Kiambu who have consistently consulted me have expressed their faith, and the ones I've spoken to, I have told them unequivocally that although you may see arguments across the floor, that finally the decision that this House will make is a decision that will be fair, that will be lawful, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say, on behalf of my people of Kiambu, that the decision that this House will take will bind us, Mr. Speaker. We shall honor that decision, Mr. Speaker, and we will know that it is a decision that has been made fairly by this House, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to urge, because our county has been in limbo, that
the decision be taken by going to a vote so that we can now start to serve the people of Kiambu, whichever way, Mr. Speaker, that we are going to decide this matter. I thank all the senators, I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and all that have participated in this process, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Kimani Wamatangi. Now, before I call the mover to reply, I want to give 2 minutes to Senator Kangata and Mwaura, because allegations have been made here, to have your comment on what has been said. Then that will enable me to make a decision.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the allegation that I went on a media station and then I issued a prejudicial statement, let me say it is not true. I never went to a TV or a radio station and made such prejudicial statement. What I did, Mr. Speaker, and I admit, I did put a tweet, but the way I put it, I was very careful. I did not put any prejudicial statement. I am aware if I was to do that, it can have a negative impact on the dignity, the independence, impartiality of this honorable House. Mr. Speaker, I want to put it on record. I'm a believer in the rule of law. I'm a believer in Senate as an independent and a strong institution whose work is to oversight the counties. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, what happens, it was taken out of context by the actual media station, which then circulated that one. For me, I strongly believe whatever decision that you are going to make will be independent, will be fair, will be impartial, and we are going to deliver justice to the people of Kiambu. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mwaura.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was quite shocked. Yes, Mudhungu Aruru. And now Kiambu. I was quite shocked to hear the governor of Kiambu, Ferdinand Waititu, actually read my tweet as part of his concluding observations. And why so? Because this tweet, yes, I did it, yes. I don't want to say I didn't do it, I did it. And I did it after we had voted not to accept his evidence. I think from what he submitted, it looked like he thought I was already judging that now the case is closed. No. It was about that admissibility of evidence. But also at the same time, Mr. Speaker, I am on record. It's not a matter of public conjecture. But for me, I have opposed Governor Waititu. That's the truth. I do not agree with him. I do not agree in the manner in which he has conducted himself as the governor of Kiambu. I stand with the people of Kiambu, and so I cannot withdraw my opinion of him. However, that does not preempt. That statement is not preemptive of the decision of this August House. In any case, we vote as a delegation, and Senator Wamatangi is here to vote. So really, for me, that was a comment made out of the fact that we had voted, but also a political statement. Mr. Speaker, I submit.
Okay, honorable senators, I think I'll issue a comprehensive statement when we resume our sittings, because we must have a threshold of how we conduct ourselves as honorable senators in this House. So I'll be giving that comprehensive report, because some things can end up embarrassing us and making us look ridiculous. I now call the mover to reply.
Mr. Speaker, we are now at a very important, most critical moment, and I've had so many colleagues here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, time is a very important factor. When we started, people were so cringy and emotional because everybody was trying to defend the decisions they have made. But you can see people are now relaxed, perhaps in the confidence that the numbers they have, and so forth. Mr. Speaker, this impeachment of Governor of Kiambu, Mr. Speaker, proceedings is very important. Mr. Speaker, I have been in this House. When the impeachment of Governor Samboja came late last year, the conversation was different. our friends, particularly, Mr. Speaker, on the side I'm facing, defended the governor even before we formed the committee. Viciously, Mr. Speaker. Viciously. And, Mr. Speaker, the answer will bear me witness. But, Mr. Speaker, because of the experience of the moment, I can see. We are not blind. We can do the arithmetic. We can see, Mr. Speaker, the patterns. Mr. Speaker, it's only sad that Central Province has produced, Mr. Speaker, former Central Province and Mount Kenya region, has produced the highest number of impeachments in this House. That is Kiambu, Muranga, Nyeri, Embu, Mr. Speaker, where we did 2 impeachments in Embu and even an impeachment of a deputy governor. Mr. Speaker, there is a very telling pattern that I have seen from other sources. Someone mentioned, a friend of mine, Mr. Speaker, who is an honorable member. That is it that in these areas the governors are more corrupt? Or is it possible, Mr. Speaker, that in other areas and other parties, the governors are shielded, Mr. Speaker, from being brought to this House? Mr. Speaker, this is a very telling, Mr. Speaker, coincidence. Because for the time I've been in this House for 8 years, the pattern is that, Mr. Speaker, it's in a particular direction, in a particular political party or political parties. But one political party, Mr. Speaker, has never even attempted an impeachment in the county assembly. Mr. Speaker, that kind of a pattern tells something about the politics of devolution. And we cannot ignore. We can't ignore, Mr. Speaker, the politics of devolution. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, we are going to vote on an impeachment of a governor when, Mr. Speaker, I can say here without fear of contradiction, we have doubts about the procedures in the county assembly. Mr. Speaker, you told me that I need to make my position known at the end. This is the time I'm making my position known. Mr. Speaker, as the senator of Elgeyo Marakwet County, I have problems with the way Elgeyo Marakwet is being managed. My governor is under investigation. Mr. Speaker has been to EACC for all those kind of things. But, Mr. Speaker, even if the same procedure is brought in this House to impeach Governor Tolgos, Mr. Speaker, I will never support. Because, Mr. Speaker, I must be seen to be consistent. I must be seen to be consistent in defending the law, the constitution, and procedures. Mr. Speaker, I may be junior in this House in terms of law practice than the 3 senior counsels who are sitting on the minority side. But, Mr. Speaker, I want history to judge me right, that eventually, when the courts of law will have made a decision about the decision we are going to make in this House, I want, Mr. Speaker, many years down the line, for me to walk in the streets of Nairobi and in the Republic of Kenya and say, look, I am that gentleman who never, Mr. Speaker, sacrificed for political expediency the truth and the law, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I beg to reply. I can see, Mr. Speaker, the mob lynching of the governor. The politics of the day is favoring his lynching. But, Mr. Speaker, politics change. Times change. Mr. Speaker, if God gives me the opportunity if God gives me the opportunity to be in this House again, I will be very happy when another governor who will have been one of us will be brought to the dock. And, Mr. Speaker, when they will be fighting for procedure, that, Mr. Speaker, this House must follow the right procedure. I have no doubt in my mind, notwithstanding the final decision that this House will make. And I am saying this anticipating a decision that, of course, I know because I've been in this House, Mr. Speaker. I've been in this House. I can see where it is going. And I can see, and I know what vehicle drove people to what direction. And those are from our memoirs.
No, order, Senator.
But, Mr. Speaker,
order, Senator. No,
that vehicle, Mr. Speaker, must be left for auditing, Mr. Speaker, in future.
Order, Senator. Order, Senator. Order, Leader of Majority. Order. You have done very well until that point. I've said we are honorable members. This is a House that is held in high esteem. The whole world is watching, and it's wrong for you to impute improper motive against members of this Senate. So I know you are a leader, but don't impute improper motive in the House.
Mr. Speaker, I respect the Speaker of this House. I respect the Speaker of this House. The Speaker has made a ruling. Mr. Speaker, I want to make it abundantly clear that, Mr. Speaker, when it walks like a duck, looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it is a duck. I beg to reply. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, order, members. Order. What's your point of order, Leader of Minority?
You know, Mr. Speaker, the leader has finished on a very high note. When it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and looks like a duck, it is a duck. Did you realize at the end of his presentation, he did not move? Just that word. Just that word. So the duck...
Oh, I think he moved. I heard him.
No, he didn't move.
He did. He moved. He moved. Later, I heard him. I heard him. Order, members. I will now order that the bell be rung for 3 minutes.
You know that better than
Naogopa.
Okay, I now order senators. I now direct that the bars be drawn and the doors closed. Take your seats. Okay, order. Order, senators. Take your seats. Take your seats. Order, senators. Okay, order. Yeah. Order, senators. Order. Take your seats. Okay, senator says order. Take your seats. Now the hour of reckoning has come. And like I told you, take your seats. Take your seats. Okay, honorable senators, order. I now take your seat. Okay, I now put the question, which is that whereas pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution and Section 33 of the County Government Act 2012, on 19th December 2019, the County Assembly of Kiambu approved a motion to remove from office by impeachment the Honorable Fernand Ndungu Waititu Babayao, the Governor of Kiambu County. And further, whereas by letter dated 20 September 2019, reference CAK/1/19/1024, received in the office of the Speaker of the Senate on 23rd December 2019, the Speaker of the County Assembly of Kiambu informed the Speaker of the Senate of the approval of the motion by the County Assembly and further forwarded to the Speaker of the Senate documents in evidence of the proceedings of the Assembly. And whereas, pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution, Section 33 of the County Government Act 2012, and Standing Order Number 75, the Senate had the County Assembly on the grounds of removal from office by impeachment of the Governor. And further, whereas pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution, Section 33 of the County Government Act 2012, and Standing Order Number 75, the Senate also had the Governor of Kiambu County on the grounds of removal from office by impeachment of the Governor. Now, therefore, pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution, Section 33 of County Government Act 2012, and Standing Order Number 75, the Senate resolves to remove from office by impeachment the Honorable Ferdinand Ndungu Waititu Babayao, the Governor of Kiambu County, on the following charges, namely, 1, gross violation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the County Government Act 2012, and Public Finance Management Act 2012, and the Public Procurement and Disposal Act 2005. 2, crimes under the national law, and 3, abuse of office, gross misconduct. Honorable Senators, we shall be voting on the 3 charges, and therefore we are going to vote for each charge separately, and after that, all the charges have been voted for. I will then announce the results of the division. I now put the question on the first charge, which is that the Senate resolves to remove from office by impeachment the Honorable Ferdinand Ndungu Waititu Babayao, the Governor of Kiambu County, for gross violation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the County Government Act 2012, the Public Finance Management Act 2012, and the Public Procurement and Disposal Act 2005. You can now vote. Senator Kangata, take your seat and concentrate. Okay, those that need assistance, come forward, approach the clerk. Order, members. I now put the question on the second charge, which is that the Senate resolves to remove from office by impeachment the Honorable Ferdinand Ndung'u Waititu Babayao, the Governor of Kiambu County, for crimes under the national law. Vote. Those who need assistance, do you? Order, senators. I now put the question on the third charge. Order. Senator Omanga, order. Okay, order, senators. I now put the question on the third charge, which is that the Senate resolves to remove from office by impeachment the Honorable Ferdinand Ndung'u Waititu Babayao, the governor of Kiambu County, for abuse of office, stroke gross misconduct. Okay, those who want assistance. Okay, order members. Order members. Senator Milson, you are becoming very nomadic. And just take your seat. Okay, honorable senators, as you are aware, we were voting on 3 charges, and these are the results of the 3 charges. On first charge, the ayes had 27, the noes had 12, abstentions had 0. The ayes have it. On charge number 2, the ayes were 28, the noes 11, abstentions 0. The ayes have it. On charge number 3, the ayes 28, the noes 11, abstentions 0. The ayes have it. Honorable senators, the net effect of these votes is that pursuant to Article 181 of the Constitution, Section 33 of the County Government Act, and Standing Order 75 of the Senate Standing Orders, the Senate has resolved to remove from office by impeachment Honorable Ferdinand Ndung'u Waititu Babayao, the Governor of Kiambu County, and the Governor accordingly ceases to hold office. Honorable senators, there being no other business, it's now time to adjourn the House. Order, senators. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until Tuesday, 11th February 2020 at 2:30 p.m.